started. My name is Caroline Colas, and I am the Senior Director of Health and Wellness at the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. The Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan has partnered with the Whole Being Institute to bring a series to you on how to cope and thrive during these times of uncertainty. We are so glad that you've joined us for our Lunch and Learn series, Q&As with leading experts in the science and application of positive psychology. Today, we're going to talk about creativity with Hisla Bates, Dr. Hisla Bates. In the age of COVID-19 pandemic, we need to think creatively and find new ways of being. What is creativity? Creativity is often associated with art, but there are many ways to be creative. Creativity can mean innovation, curiosity, exploration, or even learning. Creativity is thinking outside the box and finding new ways to problem solve. In a state of flow, creativity abounds. And we'll talk about a state of flow. I would love to hear more about that and unpack that a bit. Let's get creative and add a little joy and play to our lives. Dr. Hisla Bates is an artist and integrative psychiatrist in private practice in New York City. Like many of us, she is in quarantine during the COVID-19 pandemic and is staying positive using art and creativity as her medicine. I welcome to the call Dr. Hisla Bates.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for having me, Caroline. It's great to meet all of you, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about creativity today. So I'm going to share my screen. I don't see anybody anymore. Let's see. Okay. Let me share my screen with you. And of course, I'm not on the slide that I want to be on. Okay, so can everyone see my slides? Hello? Hello, did I lose
Yes, yes,
okay.
We can see your slides.
Okay, great. So, hello everyone, my name is Dr. Hisla Bates, and I'm a psychiatrist here in New York City, pediatric and adult psychiatry, and I'm going to talk to you about art and creativity as modalities for healing and finding happiness. I'm also certified in positive psychology from the Whole Being Institute, who is helping to put on this lunchtime series. So what is creativity? And, you know, there are many ways to define creativity. And I currently have a summit going on right now, which talks about creativity in medicine. And I have some quotes from some of the doctors who I've interviewed. And Dr. Byron Young is a psychiatrist in LA, and he defines creativity as creativity is the freedom to dream or imagine, making something new, a transformation. When you use creativity to be impactful, it is an act of love. And I just think that's a wonderful way to describe creativity. Creativity is the capacity to honor your inner life in such a way that there is a consistency between your inner values and your outer expression, such that you can contribute to the world in a meaningful and beautiful way. And that's a quote from Dr. Carrie Barron, who is a psychiatrist and also the author of The Creativity Cure. Creativity is birth. Anna Useem, she's a psychiatrist in New York as well, and the author of the book Fulfilled. To be creative is to be curious, and that's my definition of creativity. The link below is the link to the summit, which I'll show you at the end. So one of my favorite authors is Elizabeth Gilbert, and her book, The Big Magic, talks about creativity. And I really like the way she talks about creativity. Creativity asks you to enter into the realm of uncertain outcome, and fear hates uncertain outcome. Creativity cannot make a single step without fear marching alongside it. Creativity and fear are co-joint twins. So in the way Elizabeth Gilbert describes creativity is that one has to go hand in hand with fear. Now, Mihai, Csikszentmihalyi, is a psychologist who was a prisoner during World War II, and of course experienced much pain and suffering. And he was very interested in what components make a happy life. And he was very inspired by Carl Jung. And when he saw him lecture, he came to the United States to study psychology. And according to Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, people are most creative when they are in a state of flow. He's written books on the state of flow, the psychology of optimal experience. He's also written about creativity. And he studied people who immerse themselves in activities or experiences that were pleasurable and not rewarded with money or fame. So he studied chess players, rock climbers, dancers, composers, artists of all kinds. And usually these activities involved some level of mastery or skill. Sometimes these things were very risky as well. And they describe this optimal experience of flow. So with flow, there is an increase in well-being, creativity, and productivity. Okay. So Mihai Csikszentmihalyi says that there are 9 elements characteristic of flow. We have to have clear goals. Also you get immediate feedback. And so if you're a musician, the immediate feedback is playing the wrong note. If you're a rock climber, it's going to be, you know, the stability of the next rock to get you in position. The activity also needs to be in perfect balance. So we need an activity that's not too easy, because then you'd become bored, and not too challenging where you'd become extremely frustrated. So action and awareness have merged, and your concentration is heightened, and there are no distractions. There's intense concentration as well. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me.
I think so. And what we might want to do is have everyone put their cameras, take their cameras off so that our bandwidth is even greater. Thanks so much, everybody. And I'm hearing, yes, Jennifer says she can hear you. Lindsay says she can hear you. So you're
Okay,
good.
great.
Hisla, thank you.
Okay. So element number 6 is during a state of flow, there is, you're not worried about whether you're going to fail at this activity or not. You're so focused and concentrated. So your self-consciousness disappears as well. The ego doesn't get in the way. You're not worried about what other people think, or, you know, you're just simply focused on what you're doing. And your sense of time becomes quite distorted. So hours pass away, and hours seem like minutes. The activity is an activity that gives you a lot of pleasure. So according to Csikszentmihalyi, the best moments in our lives are not passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments usually occur if a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult or worthwhile. Flow is a universal human experience, and we all have been in the zone, and this is when you're in a state of flow. So I also want to talk about growth versus fixed mindset. And this is something that you've probably heard a lot about. And Carol Dweck is a psychologist who's written a book called Mindset. And she talks about the fixed versus growth mindset. So someone with a fixed mindset believes that, will believe that creativity or is, talent-based or genetic. They would not be open to actually trying something creative themselves. Someone with a growth mindset is more open to thinking outside the box. They believe that they can learn a new skill, and they're much more open than those with a fixed mindset. So I've run a lot of drawing workshops for clinicians, mostly child psychiatrists, and a lot of them come in with a very fixed mindset. Creativity, it's not something that I'm comfortable with. I can't draw a straight line. I'm not comfortable. I'm not an artist. And they leave actually with more of a growth mindset. Once you discover that you can actually change and transform in some way, you can convert from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And art is a modality for doing that. So the World Health Organization says that art is a powerful prescription. And there are actually a lot of doctors now in the UK who are prescribing to their patients that they go and visit museums and art galleries. Of course, we can't do this right now because we're in a pandemic, but actually right before the pandemic, this has been very much popularized throughout Europe. And the benefits of art are significant. Taking a broad look at the arts, the report focuses on the major categories with proven positive health benefits. You actually don't have to be a very active participant, but just being involved in the activity can actually be beneficial to you. You also don't have to be good at art in order to get the benefits of it. Just the mere fact of trying it and actually working with it can offer benefits as well. Art enhances brain function and well-being. And there's increasing scientific evidence around this that prove that art enhances brain function. It also increases serotonin levels. And art can change a person's outlook and the way they experience the world. So I'm going to show you some of my art. These actually are kind of scary looking, probably. Self-portraits that I did when I was when I had recovered from an illness. And I show you these because it was a turning point for me. It was a time where I really, I'm sorry about that, you might hear some external noises of drilling. I apologize for that. But anyway, this was a turning point for me where I actually, went into a studio and painted from photos that I had actually taken of myself while I was sick, and I painted them. And for me, it was very cathartic. I left feeling very much relieved, as if, it gave me a very positive feeling. And it was a way of getting some internalized feelings out onto paper, out of my body and onto a page. I also paint a lot of houses and buildings. And I can talk more about the metaphor of houses and buildings at another point if you're interested. And so what is creativity? We've seen different definitions of creativity, such as birth, innovation, curiosity, the ability to create something new, art. What is your definition of creativity? I'd love it if people would put their definition of creativity into the chat so that we can talk about it.
We also had a few questions about your portraits. Are these monoprints?
They are monoprints. Yes, I do a lot of the art that I do are monoprints, and these the technique of monoprinting, you actually paint onto a plate. I like to paint onto copper plates, but you can also use plexiglass, and the shape you can see is a rectangular shape. And each one is done separately, and each one is an original. So the initial plate that you paint on will give you one image. And then once it's printed, it's transferred onto paper. Once it's printed, you're left with the remnants, what we call a ghost. And it's a lighter version of the printed one. And then I go back again and I paint a new, another image onto that same plate. And that'll give me my second image and then my third image. So yeah, it's an interesting printing technique, but within one evening, I can paint or have 3 to 6 images, depending on how prolific I am on that particular day. So
Wow.
these 3 images came from one of those sessions.
And we also have a few other comments. I think these portraits are fantastic. And I think people would like to know your relationship about home and houses. And if you don't mind just sharing with us, we do have time.
Sure. So I can share a personal story. I have done a lot of reading about the heart, and in 2015, I had a SCAD event, which is a spontaneous coronary artery dissection. And I've done some reading about the heart, more recently. And one of the books that I really loved is, it's called Heart by Sandeep Juhar. I may be mispronouncing his name, but he writes about the heart. He's a cardiologist. And he talks about the metaphors of the heart. The heart is very much in our everyday language. We talk about, someone having a large heart or a small heart, etc. You can learn things by heart. And one of the things that struck me was that he said the heart is like a house. And it has rooms, which are the chambers of the heart. And it also has valves, which are like doors of a house. And for many years, long before my heart attack or SCAD, I painted houses. And I love to paint houses that are broken and falling down. And I have a series of houses. The one on the left is in black and white, and it's called The Fixer Upper. And, years later, I think that the metaphor for the heart and feeling broken is probably what my heart was talking to me as I was making these paintings. And I do have a love for houses, which is separate from my heart, but I just find it an interesting metaphor that, that brokenness or that feeling broken can be brought out in my work or in my paintings. And my more recent work has very little to do with houses, and I've moved on to painting other things. So I just think, I just find it very interesting in retrospect.
I think of heart and home and houses and abode. It's like the heart is almost a home of our body, right? It's the
Right.
hearth of our body. Just want to remind everybody to go ahead and take your videos off so that we can, some people are having a little bit of a trouble with the sound, but so Nancy I know is, and Lisa said that you are a little bit, so we'll just keep everybody, if you can turn your cameras off, that should help. And then we have some answers in the chat about,
Okay.
let's see, thought creativity to me is about art, and I feel sometimes like I am not that creative. Creativity is life. Creativity is an expression of self, which can evolve as one is able to let go. How does one overcome self-critical voice when learning how to draw or use watercolor? Creativity, permission to draw and write outside the lines.
Nice, beautiful. I love that. Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts on creativity. So I'm just going to tell you guys the benefits. Can you hear me better if I'm closer to the microphone?
Yes.
Does that work?
Yes, that helps. That helps.
Okay. So what art can do for you, it can do a lot of things for you. It can teach you patience, and it can teach you that it's okay to make a mistake, because in art, there are never really any mistakes. You can always go over something, paint over it, draw over it. And many of the lines that we put down initially are not perfect, but we can form them in ways that can surprise us. Art is a way of experimenting and playing. As adults, so rarely do we give ourselves an opportunity to play or to experiment. For children, it comes naturally. And if all of us can just remember that before we learned to write, we were drawing or scribbling, and it's almost something that actually comes naturally to us and has from the beginning of time, but we lose sight of that as we get older. You can get outside of your comfort zone, and you can also relax and lower stress. Herbert Benson of Harvard Medical School says that you can obtain the relaxation response by doing something creative, artistic. It could be knitting, it could be needlepoint, it could be gardening. And when you reach the relaxation response, it's physiological. Your blood pressure is lowered, and you know, the many physical benefits that come out of it. You can connect with other people, share your ideas. When you share art with other people, it's a form of communication. Art can touch people in such ways that they really can't explain, because art often is something that comes from the heart. Art can improve your memory, and there have been a lot of studies that have shown that if doctors draw out procedures while they're explaining them to patients, the patient will remember them better and have a better understanding. Also, when we're lecturing, if you draw pictures instead of writing everything down, you will also have a greater recall. And drawing and painting and art can open us up to parts of ourselves that may be subconscious and not realized. Now, I have a video that I wanted to share with you guys about a woman who had a physical disability. Excuse me. Just going to sip some water. She had a physical disability, and she was also extremely depressed and could not get off of her couch, and really was told that she would be wheelchair bound for the rest of her life. And she started painting and drawing in an art class, and had ended up in a state of flow. And in that state of flow, she went over to get a different color paint and walked over to the counter and realized suddenly that she was walking in the state of flow. And from that point on, she recovered. And I hope that it'll work. It may not work, but I've essentially told you what the whole video is, just in case it doesn't. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay.
You could also
Okay,
go.
I'm gonna do a new screen share.
There we go.
And can you see it? Can you see video now?
There we go. Yes.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna try and play it for you so you can hear some of it. I'm gonna skip the beginning where she introduces herself.
Spiraled into a deep, dark hole, pushed away all my family, friends, became a recluse. And to that, because of that, I practically vegetated. I was getting to the point I couldn't even move myself up off the chair properly. I couldn't walk from the house to the car unaided. That was my way of thinking was, well, this is it. I'm going in that wheelchair soon. I'm getting worse. Pain clinic, Gloucester Royal, referred me to something called Art Lift, which is funded by the NHS. I didn't want to go because I didn't think I was artistic. Wasn't even interested in art whatsoever. So I went just to keep them quiet more than anything else. And I'll be honest, within sort of 4 weeks of being there, a few things, but the one day that changed my life was I got up and walked not even 5 meters to go and get some paint. Sat back down in my chair and I was like, oh my God, I've just walked over there unaided. Without thinking about it, I was so zoned in what I was doing that I just got up and done it. And that's the day that changed my life, that made me realise actually art is very good therapy. You know, it just, yeah, it went from there really.
So tell us what sort of activities you were doing at Art Lift.
All sorts, whatever we wanted, she'd ask us. But she started off, for a lot of us, we were all saying we got no idea. So it was basic skills, what each individual pencil was used for, how we use them, same as paints and paintbrushes, how to mix colours, the real basics. And then as we got more and more confident, she done things like confidence skill, like drawing. That was a good one. Look at the object for 5 seconds, close your eyes and draw it. And the first time you do it, like, look at all those rubbish. She's going, no, it's not, look, your perspective's all right. Draw it again. So you do it again. By the time you've done the third one, you could actually see that you were getting better each time. And she said, see, you can do it.
What were you feeling when you were drawing?
Well, I didn't think I was feeling anything until the end of the lesson would come. And then I'd be like, oh, is that it? I've got to go home now. I want to do some more. You know? So, excuse me. So, yeah, at the time, I wasn't sure what I was feeling until I'd gone back home. And thought, do you know what? I didn't think about my pain. I didn't think about my illness. I didn't think about that dreaded wheelchair. I didn't think about anything. Whether I'd left the cooker on, nothing. Just about what I was doing. And eventually, as I got more and more confident with my work, I started realising I can draw. I started to enjoy what I was creating and going home, going, look what I've done today. Not, I've had a bad back all day, love, you know. Look what I'm doing today. So, yeah, it's hard to explain how you feel.
What do you think special about art and creativity? Why does that make a difference?
I think for me, it was the freedom. The freedom to live. The freedom, I had no life, or so I thought before. And there was no way of getting out of this. No amount of medication, no amount of antidepressants and counselling and all that done anything for me. It just didn't. It might have kept me afloat, but it just didn't really do anything. That was the best medicine ever, because it was just a freedom of she taught us to draw and paint to music, slow music, fast music, so just being there in the zone and doing it. And it's just so hard to explain. Maybe that's why I love drawing birds, because of the freedom.
You started to live your own.
Yeah.
So what do you say to people who are thinking about joining your group? What do you say to them about why?
For other people, it can mean something else, but for me, it's drawing.
So the organisation's called Art Lift, and it has really lifted you.
Yeah, it did. And when it came...
What does that mean?
It lifted me up off that sofa. It lifted me up out of my front door. It just picks you up. It just... I just don't know how to explain it. I suppose it's like having a child in a sweet shop and saying, whatever you like, and they got this exciting feeling.
You're not limited by that diagnosis. You're released as a person.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, it's just that because I could do it on paper, made me realise I can do it off paper in life general. I can do anything I want to do if I put my mind to it. And it was doing the art that proved that to me, because I didn't think I was artistic.
Now, would art have a special magic that medicine or occupational therapy might not have?
I'm not saying it's a
What's the
replacement.
special magic about art?
I wouldn't say it's a replacement, not in all cases, but it can certainly help. And like for me, I will never be cured of what's wrong with me, but I'm not going to die from what's wrong with me. I could have died from the depression though.
Okay, so I wanted everyone to see that. Can you hear me? You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Because I think that she is a great example of what being in flow or being in the zone is really like. And, you know, it was an awakening for her, which I think art can be for a lot of people. So let's see, I think I have a
I was
couple
curious
slides.
if I could ask a question. How were you an artist before you had your cardiac incident, and or did you sort of become more engaged in art? And did you experience yourself this sort of flow state that helped in your healing?
So yes, all above, all the above. 1 second. Let me, can you see my screen at all? I'm just,
Yes.
okay. So I'm gonna just show you, I'm almost, here's some other houses that I've done. And this is the last slide, if anyone wants to get in touch with me as well. So I can copy this and put it in the chat maybe, and we can talk.
Great. And
So-
I also, do you have a course that people can take that's going to be starting soon? We've had several folks ask about that.
Yes, I will be, I have a free gift for everyone who's on here today. And if you go to my website, which is Dr. Hisla Bates, MD, that's DRHIS as in Susan, LA, B as in boy, ATES, MD.com. I have a free gift. 3 things you ought to know about drawing and creativity, and also how to create and design your own coloring book. So it's a great activity that that you and your children can engage in, but hopefully adults will engage in that activity. And I have drawing workshops in which I love working with people who say they're not creative and they can't draw a straight line. And you know, I love seeing the transformation when they find out that they can draw. So yes, the workshops I will announce if you sign up to be on my mailing list. I've done a couple online, but you know, maybe I'll do another one. If I have a lot of people who are interested, I'd be happy to do one.
Wonderful. We had a question from Jennifer Madison. Hi, Hisla. Hope you are well. I do a lot of coloring. It's pretty basic, but very fun. Does that have the same benefits as painting?
You know, I honestly am a little biased. And so I would have said, no, it doesn't. It does have benefits though, absolutely. It can lower your stress level. I personally feel that drawing is much more rewarding in many ways. And so if you can try drawing and then coloring your drawings, I think you will see that the benefits are even greater. So don't stop coloring, but don't be afraid to draw. So many people are afraid. I think that something happens around the age of 8 or 9 where we just decide, that's it. I'm no longer gonna, draw, and we start judging and criticizing and comparing ourselves. And that stops us from actually enjoying something that could be beneficial to us in the long run.
Yeah, Anita actually said, I am constantly critical when I paint, but then usually love how it turns out. At a certain point, you just get engaged and to forget about the results.
That's right. When you're in a state of flow, you forget about what it's going to look like, or, you're just enjoying the activity. And that's where you want to be. That's where you're going to find pure joy and happiness. And to answer your question, yes, I went to Parsons School of Design, and I was a fashion designer before I went to medical school to become a doctor. I feel like medicine was a calling for me. And so even though I enjoyed being a fashion designer, I really had this altruistic yearning to help people and this great desire to go back to school and become a doctor. And so for many years, I pushed art aside, and it wasn't something that I did. Maybe I do a little bit anatomy drawings here and there to help me remember structure, but art was something, it became a hobby, and it was pushed away. And then about 12 years ago, I started working with a group in Boston, in Brookline, Massachusetts. And one night a week, I dedicated to printmaking. And that just began a whole new world for me. I started showing my work. I did a lot of Brookline open studios. My work has been shown in galleries. I've been in juried shows and a couple museums. And so I realized how important art was to me and that it needed to be a part of my life. It was something that I couldn't push away. And then, the healing benefits continue. And I think after my heart attack, I realized that art is just so much more important to me that I just couldn't hide anymore. I couldn't be the closet artist that I was, I had to share it with the rest of the world. And as a psychiatrist, having spent over 20 years prescribing medications and working with severely mentally ill people, and realizing how they benefited from the art therapists that they worked with, or the expressive art therapists, the dancers, the musicians, I would see patients light up. And to me, that was magical. And that was the medication that a lot of us really need, And we need more of it in our lives. And I want to just keep spreading the word.
Well, I love that you said they just lit up, because what is medicine but to heal us, right? And how do we define vitality? Well, I think it is that life, that being lit up. And it's interesting, some people in the chat mentioned, oh, I feel this when I dance, right?
Yes.
And I wonder if how for you, in your state of flow, when you're working even with patients, is there a flow state that you you get into, and has that influenced your artistic and your creative side? Does that even affect your work when you're diagnosing and stuff like that? Let's talk about the interface between being a physician and also being an artist. And do you find any of those processes similar, that you go into a flow state when you're working with patients? And also, is it similar or at all to when you're working with your art, or are they completely separate?
Well, it's different, I mean, you can get into a flow state as a physician, say in surgery. You know, before I did psychiatry, I was also an ophthalmologist. So I did a year of ophthalmology. And when you're in surgery, when I was in surgery, I should say, I was in a state of flow. I absolutely love surgery. And, you know, I think it has something to do with working with your body, when your body and your mind are fully engaged. You know, I think that's how you can really get into a state of flow. And so with art and painting, you can have the same experience as well. It's that connection with the body and the mind working together. You know, as a psychiatrist, it's a lot of verbal communication. And so I think that you don't get into the same type of flow. Flow is a meditative process. So if you meditate, or some people say they can't meditate, then I highly recommend drawing or painting or some sort of activity like that, because it can put you into a meditative state more easily.
I love that your little gift for us is did you say creating our own coloring book?
That's right, yeah. You can create your own coloring book.
It seems like, I've never thought of that actually, but it seems like it really sort of magnifies in Barbara Fredrickson's work and Sonia Lemirsky when they were talking about personal choice and personalizing things and how important that is. So can you talk more about like creating your own coloring book, why that was important to you, or how that came about? That's a very creative idea.
Well, well, you know, I am an idea person. So if you present a problem to me, I will have 10 or 20 different ideas about how it can be solved. And that's just how my brain works. Honestly, I'm not sure how this came about, but yeah, I just thought, wouldn't this be nice if people could create their own coloring book rather than buying them and coloring in somebody else's creation? What could be more powerful or empowering than that? You know, that, wow, I made this happen. I can show you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd be able to see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
You can see it?
Uh-huh.
So basically, I teach you how to make a very, very simple design that just about anybody can do.
Yeah.
And
Move
then,
it just a little further away. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, there you go.
And then you can expand on it and, you know, fill the page with a variety of designs and then color them in. You know, it's an activity that a child could do with a parent. A lot of us are quarantined and have kids. And this is a fantastic way for the kids to get creative as well.
Dr. Michael Steger was talking about meaning last week, and he was suggesting that we take photographs, one a day even, of things that are meaningful to us. And
Yeah.
this strikes me as another way of creating meaning.
Absolutely.
Even just, but almost it seems like we could get some information from our unconscious or our subconscious when we start to draw and then connect those lines and then pick out colors. And again, that mind-body connection.
Absolutely. I didn't mention photography, but photography is a magnificent tool as well, because it increases your level of observation. And that's what drawing does as well. When I talk about drawing, what people don't realize is that we don't really look at things deeply. But when you have to draw them, you do. And when you have to draw another person, you really look at every line in their face, the color of their eyes, the shape of their eyes, the shape of their lips and nose. And it's a different level of observation. And this level of observation is what's needed for great clinical work. When you're a physician, you want to be able to see subtlety. You want to be able to see that, you know, quarter-inch difference in whatever it is you're looking at. And drawing can teach you that.
That seems like it would be a useful skill in a lot of different areas. And
Absolutely.
right? In the JCC, we say making the ordinary extraordinary. And I think it's what you're saying almost is look again, right? I think of the drawing class. I was a dancer in college, but we had to take drawing, right? And we had to draw figures. And I remember the frustration of like what I see in my eyes and with my hands, it's not the same. How do I do that on a two-dimensional surface?
Well, I have the same problem because I may envision what I want something to look like, but it never comes out that way. And it's okay. You have to accept that, you know? And that's really, is a way of accepting accepting what comes out. And the more you do something, the better you become at it. Many of us think we automatically should be able to draw something and it should look exactly like what we saw. But it actually takes time and many years of mastery, some level of mastery, but the enjoyment can come early. You don't have to be a master painter to enjoy the process of painting.
And I wonder if you could talk about Maria Montessori. You know, she wanted everybody working with their hands. She really felt like there was a connection between the hands and the brain. And we're talking about our kiddos and they're at home now and drawing together and doing those kind of activities would seem to me like a wonderful activity to engage that state of flow.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know a lot about her work, but I do, like I said earlier, that hand connection to the mind. When we think about drawing, we think it's only our hands in motion, but it's actually a full body activity. And what I try to tell people is that if you're stiff and tight, your drawing's going to look exactly the same way. So you actually have to loosen your shoulders and loosen your arms in order to really draw effectively. Unless you're an architect and you're drawing very straight lines, then you want those straight lines. But normally it's a full body activity, and what you feel inside gets put out onto the page in some way.
I wonder if you had a piece of paper there right now that you could just draw something and we could see like a line or a doodle or something that just comes to mind. Not to put you on the spot. I didn't even tell her I was going to ask her to do this because it just came to my mind. But it's like everyone at home, we could do this, right? We could take a line and
So drawing is, if you can write, you can draw. Because I'll do something really silly because, this is something that I remember from elementary school, right? You take the word boy. Okay, so can everybody see that?
Yes.
Write the word boy.
Okay.
B-O-Y.
I'm doing it. Give us a moment. Let me write it.
And
Maybe you guys can write it too. Okay.
This is like really silly. Okay. And so what you're going to do is you're going to connect the bottom of the B to the end of the Y. And then you're going to connect the Y to the top of the B. And then you're going to put some eyes in.
Let's see. Okay. Oh yeah. All right.
Put some eyelids in. You can, put some eyes
nice.
in there, and put some glasses on. Draw glasses. So you're going to put a line that goes to the Y. And then you're going to, you can put like I don't know, put a smile on his face.
Awesome.
2 dots for a nose. I mean, so what is drawing? Drawing is really lines. you know, it's lines. And there's something called contour drawing, blind contour drawing, where you essentially look at the, you know, you look at the object or the person and you draw them. And I don't know if we have time for any of that, but if you
Sure.
look behind me,
Uh-huh.
that's a blind contour drawing. You know, if you're offended by nudes, don't look. But it was done on a live model, and I could not look at the paper. I had to draw just looking at the model. And blind contour drawing is a great exercise in which you really learn to focus on the object and look at what we call negative space as well as positive space. And negative space is the space in between the object. So if I put my arm like this, you look at this, it's this space in here, the negative space. And so when you're drawing, you're constantly thinking about proportion, angles, you know, if I put my hand here, how far away is it in relation to my eye? You know, how far away is it from my shoulder? And you're constantly looking at the space in between, and you're measuring. And so you're using both sides of your brain, and you're using your hands. And it's just a phenomenal, amazing activity. You can tell I love it, right?
Yes, I can tell. You're talking about light. You're just lighting up. Anita says, do you like drawing on the right side of the brain? It helps you distance judgment about what the object is and how it should be drawn. Just look at shapes.
Absolutely. Yeah, drawing is, you know, drawing is just about lines. That's all it is. It's lines. Now, why would you be afraid of them? If you can write, you can draw. So in the coloring book demo that if you sign up for the free gift, basically you're going to draw a wavy line, and then you're going to put dots on it, and you're going to, you know, connect the dots. And you'll see how it, you know, expands into a different type of design. You can follow me on Instagram. You know, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and occasionally I will do some demos, you know, drawing demos or something like that.
I'm curious how positive psychology fits in this and how the whole being fits in this for you. Like, how did you find your way there?
So I mentioned my heart attack in 2015, and I knew that my life had to change. I had to do things differently. I was working, you know, 90 hours a week and 70 to 90 hours, crazy, you know, being on call, etc. And I wasn't happy. And after you're faced with a life or death experience, you have to really reassess, how am I living my life and how can I live it differently? And what are the things that I really want to do that I'm not doing? And so I did a lot of soul searching. And part of that soul searching was to go to Kripalu, where I went. And I took a course called Clear the Clutter with Maria Surah and Izzy Langerhan. And then I heard from people who were participants, well, you should really look at positive psychology because there's going to be a 9-month course in positive psychology. And I was like, what is positive psychology? I've never heard of that. And they said, yeah, it's starting next week. So there I was at Kripalu. I'd spent a week there. And I looked at the catalog, and I signed up for this course in positive psychology, not knowing anything about it. Because being a psychiatrist, you know, we don't hear about such things. And I ended up staying another week at Kripalu, and I took the course with Tal Ben Shahar. And it was the beginning of a 9-month course that I think changed my life as well. It was just part of my journey and it was part of my growth. And the thing I love about positive psychology is that we are looking for ways in which people thrive. We're looking for ways in which it's not about thinking positively, it's about what makes you light up. Let's find out what that is and let's get more of that in your life. And that's what I think I do for people. So I have a very eclectic practice, and I also do some coaching as well. And it's really about finding out what lights you up and why not do that? I mean, we only have one life to live. Let's just, live the best life that you can.
Well, thank you for that, because I was telling everybody on the call yesterday that I've decided to do the course.
Oh,
So
great.
I know, I'm very excited about it with the Whole Being Institute, and some people on the call might be joining me as well. I think Lindsay is, and there might be a few others that are going to go down the rabbit hole with me.
Right. No, it's wonderful. I think everybody should, take the course.
Yeah, and I'm really, really excited about that. Oh, someone else said the course is transformational. I also just wanted to close with and end and thank you with your work that you're doing with physicians around burnout, around, and everybody, I think people are experiencing this pandemic so differently. Some people are working like crazy.
Right.
And some people actually don't have that much to do. So there's not a universal way that anybody's experiencing this. And some people are just in burnout from being inside so much, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because, a lot of us work very hard and, we complain that, we're working so hard and we're just going through the motions and now we've got lots of time. And my feeling is, this is a time to take action of some kind. It's not a time to lie on your couch and feel sorry for yourself. The world needs you and the world needs us. And if we are, privileged enough to be safe in our homes, start thinking about what can we do about other people who are suffering. And there are a lot of people out there who are suffering. And what can we do to make a difference? And, there are a lot of healthcare workers I really feel for because they are on the front lines. They're getting sick, they're dying, they're jeopardizing their family's health as well. And on my summit, I interviewed, Robert Gore, Dr. Gore, who's in an Airbnb while his pregnant wife is at home. He's separated from her to keep her safe. We have a very high suicide rate for professionals. Medical professionals kill themselves at a rate of 400 a year. And so my piece is really to bring some life and creativity and positive psychology as much as I can to my profession that's really suffering right now, especially.
Beautiful. So it sounds like that has not only changed your life, but it's helping you change the life of others too.
That's my mission.
Yeah, and one of my understandings about the course is that that is part of the reason that they do the course, is that it's like, now you have these tools, please go out in the world and help the world. And certainly Megan McDonough, Maria Serwa, who's part of the Whole Being Certificate Program, she's been on the calls with us twice, and she will be on faculty, as is Phoebe Atkinson. And we're just, I was impressed that when I talked to them, they said, how can we help? How can we use our tools to help the JCC and the New York community? And you've done the same. You've done the same. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the gift of our coloring book. I've never made my own coloring book, right?
Yes, and if you want to email me the results of your coloring books, and send me, I'd love to see them, and I'll post them on social media. It'll be great.
Yeah. And we will send out, I know some of you have asked about the course, the whole being positive psychology course. We will send out a link. And then tomorrow, I think Phoebe put it in the chat. Tomorrow we have, oh, it's my birthday. We have Mega. Mega's going to be dancing with us.
Yay!
Yay.
I love Mega.
Yes.
Mega's great.
Yeah, she's great and doing embodied positive psychology. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you
Bates.
so
Thank
much
you
for
so
having
much.
me.
Yes,
Thank you.
and sharing your art with us and your passion and your light. I'm going to unmute everybody so we can all say goodbye and thank you. And
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Inspiration.
Inspiration. I agree.
Inspiration.
Call it out. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later. See you.
Bye.
Birthday, Caroline.
Bye, Caroline.
Happy birthday.
Love you.
Come celebrate with me.
Happy birthday.